Gopi Janam Vallabha Giribhara Dhari Yashodanandanam Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Vishnupada Brahmahamsa Prevajakacharya Ashtottara Satashi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Prevajakacharya Ashtottara Satashi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinda ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki Vrindavan Dham ki Mathura Dham ki Ganga Mai ki, Yamuna Mai ki, Tulasi Devi ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, all glories to the devotees, all glories to the devotees, all glories to the devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtavadaya Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Niti Namane. Okay. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Reading from text number 8 of the third chapter of the third canto. Okay. Asam muhurte ekasmin nanagareshu yoshitam vidham sa vidham jagre panin Anurupaha Swamayaya. Okay. Okay. Asam muhurta ekasmin Nanagareshu yoshitam Savidham jagrehe panin Anurupa swamayaya Asamuhurta ekasmin Nanagareshu yoshitam Savidham jagre panin Anurupa swamayaya Asamuhurta ekasmin Nanagareshu yoshitam Savidham jagrehe panin Anurupa swamayaya. Please repeat. Rupa Samayaya. Men? Anyone else? Asamuhurta ekasmin Nanagareshu yoshitam Savidham jagrehe pani Anurupa swamayaya. Mataji's. Okay. Asam, all those muhurte at one time, ekasmin simultaneously, nanagareshu in different compartments, yoshitam of the women, savidham with perfect rituals, jagre accepted, panin hands, anurupaha exactly to match, swamayaya by his internal potency. Translation and purport. By his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All the princesses were lodged in the different apartments, and the Lord simultaneously assumed different bodily expansions, exactly matching each and every princess. He accepted their hands in perfect rituals by his internal potency. Purport. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord is described as follows in regards to his innumerable plenary expansions. Advaitam achutam anadim anantarupam adhyam purana purusham navayovanam cha Vedeshu durlabham adurlabhamatma bhakto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The Lord, Govinda, whom I worship, is the original personality of Godhead. He is non-different from his innumerable plenary expansions, who are all infallible, original and unlimited, and who have eternal forms. Although he is primeval, the oldest personality, he is always fresh and young. By his internal potency, the Lord can expand himself into various personalities of Swayam, Prakasha, and again into Prabhava and Vaibhava forms, and all of them are non-different from one another. The forms into which the Lord expanded to marry the princesses in different apartments were all slightly different. just to match each and every one of them. They are called Vaibhava Vilasa, forms of the Lord, and are affected by his internal potency, Yogamaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmitamena Tasmai Shigrive Namah Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyata Patakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrasadam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaditam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपीश गोपिका कंठ राधा कंठ नमस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वांछकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय बुद्धले श्रीमते भक्ति विकास स्वामिति नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय बुद्धले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिति नमः नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ज्ञानानंदमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपस्महे गुरु वैष्णव भगवान तेन स्मरण है विघ्न विनाशन अनायास है निज वांछित पूरणम. Okay, so here we're discussing this pastimes of the Lord, specifically in reference to the 16,100 wives or queens of Dwarka that he marries after killing Narakasura. And this is good, that's fine. Yeah, killing Narakasura. He accepts these 16,100 women as his wives, or they accept him as his, or he becomes their husbands. And as described, he expands himself in his, specifically mentioned, he expands into his many forms. Prabhava Prakashas, or they are called, in this case, Bhaivava Vilasa, forms of the Lord. So there is, this is a little more technical here. So we're going to be going through, a lot of what Srila Prabhupada is describing is actually the purport is straight out of Chaitanya Charitamrita and the verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they help us understand a little bit more. Before going through the verses, I've noted some few things here so that I'll just describe. A few things Prabhupada talks about is the expansions of the Lord. Now it's quite detailed. In many places, there's so many, in other Shastras and within the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's explained also in Srimad Bhagavatam, the expansions of the Lord. So, specifically being spoken about here is that the Swayam Prakasha. So this specifically, Swayam Prakasha, Swayam means, or Prakasha, sorry, means the same. And so the direct expansions of the Lord, Swayam Rupa, are called Swayam Prakasha. These are direct expansions of the Lord and appear exactly the same. So when the Lord, for example, when the Lord expanded himself into numerous forms during the Rasa dance, and the case of Lord Balaram, the first expansion of Krishna, the only difference from the original is that his bodily color, as Srila Prabhupada describes often, and actually Chaitanya Charitamrita quotes this particular verse a little bit later on. So this is Swayam Prakasha, means he's the same, as being described here, that there is no difference. It's just like when Krishna does the rasa dance in Vrindavan, he specifically expands himself into unlimited amounts. There's an unlimited amount of gopis. And so they're dancing, and it's the same Krishna. So it's described here like that it's this Swayam Rupa, or this, his Swayam, his original Prakasha is the same, and Swayam Rupa, sorry, the top, Swayam means topmost, right? The self, Swayam Rupa, himself. Swayam Rupa, so the same, there's no difference at all. So that is the Swayam Prakasha. And from that Swayam Prakasha, as Prabhupada explains here, by his internal potency, the Lord can expand himself into various personalities of Swayam Prakashas, and again into Prabhava and Vaibhava forms. So, in the Madhya Leela, if you want to pull this up, chapter 20, Madhya Leela 185. So, you can pull this up. So this is pretty much exactly straight from this whatever Srila Prabhupada is speaking here is exactly a quotation straight from Chaitanya Charitamrita. We'll just go through that a little bit. Not 180. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it is right. Okay. What is this? This Madhya Leela chapter 20. Okay. What is that? 185. Is that 185? Okay, there you go. So that's 185 Prabhava Vilasa. Okay. So again, the Vilasa forms are divided into twofold categories, Prabhava and Vaibhava. Again, the pastimes of these forms are of unlimited variety. So next one. Okay, so the chief quadruple expansions are named Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Niruddha. These are called Prabhava Vilasa. You can keep going. Yeah. Balaram, who has the same, which is what we just kind of spoke about, original form as Krishna, is himself a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, and he's also considered a member of the Kshatriya race of Dwarka. Thus, his color and dress are different, and he is called a pastime form of Krishna. Next. Sri Balaram is Vaibhava Prakasha, manifestation of Krishna. He is also manifested in original quadruple expansion of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. These are Prabhava Vilasas, expansion with different emotions. Is that what it says, emotions? Yeah. Next. The first expansion of Chaturvyuha, quadruple form, is unique. There is nothing to compare with them. These quadruple forms are the source of unlimited quadruple forms. The four Prabhava pastimes forms of the Lord reside eternally in Dwarka and Mathura. So it gives us understanding that the Lord, in his different expression, in his particularly Prabhava Vilasa, as being described, it is particularly differentiated by the emotion, the way that he interacts with his devotees. And then that was Prabhava Vilasa. Is that right? That was Prabhava Vilasa? Yeah. So now there's Vaibhava Vilasa. Okay, go next. From the original quadruple expansion, 24 forms are manifested. They differ according to the placement of the weapons in their four hands. They are called Vibhava Vilasa. So this is the Vibhava Vilasa, that there's a difference in his form, by some differences there. Of course, it's Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. So go next. What else? There is one more, I think. What happened? Oh, what happened? Okay. Anyways, I got it up here. So it is mentioned here like that these Prabhava Vilasas are the forms of the Lord that exhibit different emotions. And then the Vaibhava Vilasas are those which have a different form. It's basically mentioned here that different means that in each Vishnu, as we described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they hold all of the conch shells and all of these in different places. That's why when you put your tilak on, each different form of the Lord is there, and that is signified by the placement of each ornament, or you could say each weapon. In this case, also you could say like that. The Sankha Chakra Gada Padma. So, Srila Prabhupada writes in one place, I believe, that when a form in one of these verses, we kind of got lost there. When a form of Krishna is non-different from the original form, but is less important and exhibits less potency, it is called swamsas. Examples of swamsa expansions can be found in quadruple forms of the Lord residing in their respective places, beginning with Sankarshan, Vasudev, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and also in Purusha avatars, Leela avatars, Manvantara avatars, and Yuga avatars. So these are his swamsas, his expansions of himself. So the Lord, as being described here, his Swamsa Prakasha, and again into Prabhava and Vaibhava forms, and all of them are non-different from one another. The forms in which the Lord expanded to marry the princes in different departments were slightly different, just to match each and every one of them. So it seems that now in another place, Srila Prabhupada, there's a specific mention here that when the Lord married 16,108 wives at Dwarka, this is Madhya Leela 20:168. Okay, this is a specific note of this particular. So go back one more to 67. In his original form, Krishna manifested himself into two features, Prabhava and Vaibhava. He expanded his one form, original form, into many, as he did during the Rasa Leela dance. When the Lord married 16,108 wives at Dwarka, he expanded himself into many forms. These expansions and the expansions at the Rasa dance are called Prabhava Prakasha, according to the directions of the revealed scriptures. So these expansions that Srila Prabhupada is describing here of the of Krishna are Prabhava Prakasha. But the Prabhava Prakasha, it's mentioned also in another place we're reading, that all of the forms of Krishna that reside in Dwarka are the expansions of the quadruple. That's what was being described. If we go back here, kind of getting lost here because there's a lot going on. But specifically meaning that the Lord expands himself, and then again there's the expansion of Prabhava Prakasha here. So the Chaturvyuha, so here, okay, I got it right here. So the Pradyumna, can you go back to here to, what do we have up? 85 and move across. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so the quadruple expansions, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Niruddha, they are called Prabhava Vilasa. And from them, they specifically reside in the Dwarka here. The first, Vaibhava Vilasa. The first expansion of Chaturvyuha, quadruple forms, is unique. There's nothing to compare with them. These quadruple forms are the source of unlimited quadruple forms. These four Prabhava pastimes, form of Lord Krishna, reside eternally in Dwarka and Mathura. Did you find that? Okay, there you go. These four Prabhava pastime forms of Lord Krishna reside eternally in Dwarka and Mathura. So they reside there also. So here that I don't, so it gets a little here and there here, but so Prabhupada pastimes. Okay, so here is being mentioned that Srila Prabhupada mentions in that other purport that we are reading in 68 that these are the Prabhava Prakashas, the expansions of the Lord. In 1000, where he expands himself into 16,108 forms. So he is able to be everywhere simultaneously. And similarly, just like he himself is expanding into so many forms, we have the gopis, specifically the queens, who are also expansions of Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of the Lord. Now that is described in Adi Leela 477. Go to 477. Okay, the goddess of fortune are partial manifestations of Srimati Radhika, and the queens are reflections of her image. The goddess of fortunes are her plenary portions, and they display the form of Vaibhava Vilasa. The queens are of the nature of Vaibhava Prakasha. So here we see that the Prabhava Prakasha of Krishna, expansion of the Rasa dance, where the Lord married 16,100 wives at Dwarka. And then we have the queens are the nature of Radharani's Vaibhava Prakasha is being described. So the Vrajadevis have diverse bodily features. They are her expansions and are the instruments for expanding rasa. Without many consort, there is not much exaltation in rasa. Therefore, there are many manifestations of Srimati Radharani to assist in the Lord's pastimes. Among them are various groups of consorts in Vraja who have varieties of sentiment and mellows. They help Lord Krishna taste all the sweetness of rasa dance and other pastimes. So here, Srila Prabhupada gives a lengthy understanding. As already explained, Krishna and Radha are one in two. They are identical. Krishna expands himself into multi-incarnations and plenary portions like the Purushas. Similarly, Srimati Radharani expands herself into multi-forms as the goddess of fortune, the queens, and the damsels of Vraja. Such expansions from Srimati Radharani are all her plenary portions. All these womanly forms of Krishna are expansions corresponding to his plenary expansion of Vishnu forms. These expansions have been compared to reflected form of the original form. There is no difference between the original form and the reflected form. The female reflections of Krishna's pleasure potency are as good as Krishna himself. The plenary expansions of Krishna's personality are called Vaibhava Vilasa and Vaibhava Prakasha. And Radha's expansions are similarly described. The goddess of fortune are her Vaibhava Vilasa forms, and the queens are Vaibhava Prakasha forms. The personal associate of Radharani, the damsels of Vraja, are direct expansions of her body, as expansions of her personal form and transcendental disposition. They are agents of different reciprocations of love in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, under the direct directions of Srimati Radharani. In the transcendental realm, enjoyment is fully relished in variety. The exuberance of transcendental mellows is increased by the association of large number of personalities, similar to Radharani, who are also known as gopis or sakhis. The varieties of innumerable mistresses is a source of relish for Sri Krishna. And therefore, these expansions from Srimati Radharani are necessarily for enhancing the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. Their transcendental exchanges of love are super excellent affairs of the pastimes in Vrindavan. By these expansions of Srimati Radharani's personal body, she helps Lord Krishna taste the rasa dance and other similar activities. Srimati Radharani, being the central petal of the Rasa Leela flower, is also known by the names found in the following verses. So we can see how Krishna, being the fountainhead of all the incarnations, Vishnu incarnations, Radha, she is the fountainhead of all the pleasure potencies of the Lord, you could say those who give enjoyment to him, the queens of Dwarka, the damsels of Vraja, the gopis, are expansions of Radha. So therefore, in the next few verses, the Radha's qualities and her name is expanded. Radha is one who gives pleasure to Govinda, and she is also the enchantress of Govinda. She is be all and end all of Govinda and the crest jewel of all his consorts. So going on, the transcendental goodness, Srimati Radharani, is the direct counterpart of Lord Shri Krishna. She is the central figure of all the goddesses of fortune. She possesses all the attractiveness to attract the all-attractive personality of Godhead. She is the primeval internal potency of the Lord. So here, so the 16,108 wives in different places is described. Well, Srila Prabhupada in one place mentions that some of them are, he writes a letter, I believe, Kalki Prabhu was showing this to me, that some of them are jivas, some of them are goddesses of fortune, and some of them, I forget the other particular instant mention, maybe Kalki Prabhu, when he hears this, he can send that letter through here. But then in another place in Krishna Book, Prabhupada hints at the fact that they're also just goddesses of fortune, they're all goddesses of fortune. And then in some research that was done yesterday, because we had this dilemma that other 16,100 gopis' eternal position, or can someone actually take their position, which generally from our understanding, you can't take someone's position in the spiritual world. So there was some discussion of that, but there was confirmation of that from different places, that they actually, that more or less, they've got their position with relationship with Krishna as one of the 16,100 wives, and one cannot particularly take that position. So these expansions of Radharani, or those who are giving pleasure to Krishna, they're different in their own ways as it's described. Each different princess has a slightly different emotion or a different way of showing love to Krishna, her devotion to Krishna. So Krishna specifically mentioned here that the forms in which the Lord expanded to marry the princesses, married the princesses in different apartments was slightly different, just to match in every one of them. So this is the potency of the Lord. that he not only just expands, but he expands according to the desire, the mood and the desire of the devotee, in order to facilitate that loving devotional attitude and service that that particular devotee has towards Krishna. So each and every queen, otherwise why would he be different? She there just to match each and every one of them. He wanted to he made sure that each and every queen in those palaces or in those particular apartments were completely satisfied, that they were able to serve the Lord with that particular bhava, with that particular emotion. So the Lord expanded himself like that in order to facilitate the mood of the devotee. Just like sometimes a particular devotee is naturally attracted to Lord Nrsingadev or Matsya Avatar or Varaha Avatar, such and such. And the Lord may manifest himself in that devotee's lives. Not particularly, obviously you have the form of Krishna, but if that devotee is particularly attracted toward Nrsimha, then that Nrsimha, with his intense love and dedication, devotion towards Nrsimha, he may manifest himself, as we have seen in Krishna life. There's a level of, there's love and devotion towards Nrsimhadev, and he became manifest in our lives from day one in Atlanta, more or less. So the Lord facilitates the devotee's love for him. He is Bhakta Vatsalya. He loves his devotees, so he sees their hearts and sees what they want and tries to facilitate that emotion and that loving attraction, to attract himself to them more, Krishna, one who is all attractive. So these forms of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada says that of lesser importance, but at the same time we understand that there's Achinta Veda Veda Tattva, that Krishna, of course, is the fountainhead of all of these incarnations, Krishna to Bhagavan Swayam. But the expansion of the Lord, although you could say like that, as Srila Prabhupada is quoting here, that they're not full in all aspects or in full quality as Krishna, they still invoke that loving reciprocation and attraction towards himself in different forms. So the Lord is very kind in order to facilitate the different pastimes of the Lord. Of the devotees, in order to facilitate that, in order to give pleasure. Krishna wants to Govinda, one who gives pleasure to the cows, but one who also gives pleasure to the senses. One who pleases his devotees. He's very, just like in the pastimes in the Krishna book, we see that his pastimes he performs particularly to just please his devotees. He goes and beats a menace and does all of these things in order to please Mother Yashoda, in order to please Nanda Maharaj. And he plays with he lets his friends beat him in the wrestling matches in order to please his devotees. Not that because he's, the fountainhead of, he's the Adi Purusha, the beginning of everything. He's the, is the, all in all, he's God. Not that he's just sitting there going, well, I'm better than you, so you can't beat me. But he's allowing that. He's allowing his devotees to be able to exhibit that particular relationship with him. So similarly, the Lord, being merciful to these princesses, is allowing them to love him in a particular way. So that is the mercy of the Lord, and his expansions are meant for that. Each and every devotee has a different relationship with the Lord. Well, while in Vrindavan he fulfills all of those at once, whether it is the Madhurya, or the parental affection, or the Shantaras, all of them are going on simultaneously, but he also expands himself in his more opulence, in his awe and reverence, in order to facilitate those particular moods and attitudes of those devotees. So Krishna's pastimes are unlimited, his forms are unlimited, as the Bhagavatam describes, and for the reason of, as my spiritual master asked that question to the crowd when he was here, he said, why does Krishna exist? What did he say? For his devotees. Why do his expansions exist? For his devotees. To facilitate the love and attitude and mood of his devotees. All of these Prabhava Vilasas and Vaibhava Vilasas, or Swayam Prakashas, all of these expansions exist in order to satisfy the devotees of the Lord. Just to hear the pastimes of the Lord in different forms are very satisfying. And they particularly, like I was saying, they attract the devotee towards that particular form of the Lord. Because although it is, you could say like that it is not Krishna himself. It is Krishna, and at the same time it's an expansion of Krishna. It is non-different. So the devotee doesn't lose anything by worshipping Lord Nrsimha or Matsya or Varaha, or we have so many different forms of the Lord. But they get full benefit, and they get that feeling of full loving reciprocation with the Lord. They experience that. It's not that any less, well, if I worship Ram, or if I worship Nrsimha, it's not that I am on a lower platform. That is a misconception. Prabhupada said, well, it's a transcendental difference. It's not particularly like your material thing, one is better than the other. So there's a transcendental difference. So the Lord expands himself in order to facilitate that loving reciprocation of the devotees. And so we can see here that, Srila Prabhupada is quoting here, that Advaitam achitam anadim ananta rupam adhyam purana purusham navayovanam cha. That although he expands, he's ever youthful, he's ever fresh. Not that he's expanding, but that he himself becomes degraded in his beauty, or in his wealth, or in his renunciation, or any of these things. Krishna, although expanding to facilitate so many other devotees to worship him, he himself remains as it is. There is no at all a loss in his character, loss in his qualities. He does not lose anything. That is the meaning of being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the primeval, the oldest. Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. He doesn't particularly quote that here, but that he's available to those. He's very distant, but he's very close to those who are atma bhaktos, who are devotees of the Lord. So when we generally hear of this, so many expansion and so many of these things, it's kind of overwhelming. Okay, like especially if one doesn't understand properly the siddhanta of how to worship Krishna, even like we have in our movement sometimes, that we've degraded or looked down upon other Vaishnavas who perform worship to other forms of the Lord and say, oh, that's lower. We don't want anything to do with that, which is wrong. So when we see such a thing where the Lord has so many expansions, how to understand that properly so that the worship can go on in a proper sense, in a proper understanding, without becoming offensive towards other devotees or oneself, or Krishna. So Krishna expands himself into many various personalities in order to facilitate the pastimes of the Lord, and they're all one, and they're different at the same time. So one should understand that point in devotional service, that these are particularly to facilitate the Lord and his pastimes, and the pleasure potency as is being described here, that is Radharani expanding as the goddesses of fortune. She facilitates that. So the living entities, the jivas, particularly serve under that instruction as it was being described. Even all of the goddesses of fortune, they serve under her. Similarly, all of the jivas who are on the platform of transcendental, or on the spiritual platform, they all serve under her to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is and her consorts. So this is the reason of expansion, and we see he's going and saving these 16,100 girls, and he is expanding himself and performing these pastimes, which is really amazing. You see, read in the Krishna book, and how he's performing so many different activities simultaneously, inconceivable. So these are the pastimes of the Lord that are very difficult to understand, but by Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto, one who is very close, one who is got the salve of devotion. How does that verse start? Premanjana churito bhakti vilochanena santa sadeva hideshu vilokayanti yang shama sundar machinda gunasarupam govinda mahadi purusham tamam bhajami. One whose eyes are fit to see, they can see. They can see all of these things in proper light. With a mundane vision, we cannot see how, just like I was saying that, with a mundane vision, one cannot actually understand how to worship the Lord and how to understand all of these different forms of the Lord, how they're simultaneously one and different at the same time. One may criticize in one way, one is lower than the other, you shouldn't worship that, you should worship Krishna only. That is true, but at the same time, the expansions of the Lord are Krishna himself. And we see that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, with that particular devotee who wanted to worship Ram. And Lord Chaitanya is there, and he's saying, well, how can I give up this worship? And Lord Chaitanya basically tells him, there's nothing wrong with it, you go on with it. You go on with worship of Ram. It's absolutely perfect. There's no loss at all. So the Krishna consciousness movement, in this Krishna consciousness movement, we're learning these deep understandings of the Vedic literatures and understanding the complexities of the Lord. And by doing that, by understanding that, by chanting Hare Krishna, by performing devotional service, we can start to come to understand these things. It's a little more detailed, a little bit more complicated. Mitravan Prabhu was meant to give this class and more or less found out last night. So I tried to see what I could do this morning. I'm not so good at all of these particular details, so I don't have so much deep understanding of all of these particular details. That's why particularly reading from Srila Prabhupada's translation and commentary on all of these things. So these are the Prabhava Prakasha, expansions of the Lord. And so these are the pastimes that are going on. And as I was going to recite, so this thing here, this is quite interesting in regards to the 16,100 gopis had with vows. So some 16,100 gopis had with vows worshipped Katyayani to obtain me. To bring my mind somewhat to peace by seeing a likeness of them, I married the same number of queens here in Dwarka. So Krishna is saying that. So commentary. Of the young gopis of Vraja, 16,000 attained Krishna's intimate association. The Mathura Mahatma states, Gopya Gayanti Nrityanti Sahasranji Cha Sodasha. 16,000 gopis were singing and dancing. The present verse specifies the number of the most fortunate gopis as 16,100, although the word Cha implies that there were actually more. All the gopis were extremely attracted to Krishna, but some of them earned Krishna's complete satisfaction by undergoing the Katyayani Vrata to obtain him as their husband. These were the gopis who most zealously wanted Krishna as their own. So Srimad Bhagavatam recorded their prayer, Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayogini Adhishwari Nanda Gopa Sutam Devi Patim Me Krutu Me Namaha Iti Mantram Japantyastah Pujam Chakura Kurma Rikaha. Each of them unmarried girls performed her worship while chanting the following mantra. O goddess of Katyayani, great potency is Lord, O possessor of great mystic power, mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisance unto you. No one can match the gopis' attractive sway over Krishna, but Krishna accepted his queens as substitutes in the pastimes at Dwarka. The principal queens of Dwarka are in fact direct expansions of the principal gopis. So at the place 16,000 gopis were assembled with Krishna, who is considered the supreme, the super soul, the shelter of all living beings. These gopis are his renowned 16 potencies. O goddess, Krishna is like the moon and the gopis are like the phases, and the full of contingent of gopis is like full of sequences of the moon's 16 phases. Each of the 16 divisions of gopis, my dear Varangana, is subdivided into 1,000 parts. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes from the Kartika Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana. Those who were the daughters of the cowherds in their early youth became royal princesses in their maturity. The Acharya adds, therefore, just as the Lord of Dwarka is plenary expansion of the supremely complete Lord of Sri Vrindavan, so his principal queens are full expansions of his supremely complete pleasure potencies, the gopis. So even the 16,100 wives of Krishna, or all of these girls he took to be his wives, are the expansions of the gopis of Vrindavan. So we can see that not only, well, Krishna obviously has stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Radharani is there as a direct expansion of Krishna, is the pleasure potency of Krishna, but then there's that Swayam Prakashas and Prabhava Prakashas and Vaibhava Prakashas of even Radharani into the gopis, and then the gopis into Dwarka. So it gets very complicated. It's both the pleasure potency and the Lord himself. There's so many expansions of that. So this is a little complex matter, so I'm sure I'm sorry if I made a few mistakes. I think there must be with the Chaturvyuha forms being expanded into Dwarka, that must mean exactly the Chaturvyuha forms. I'm a little confused about that. But that's all I really had prepared. That's all I could really find. Trying to explain whatever is here. I'm sorry if it was a little confusing, because there's a lot of notes here, and I'm trying to keep it as concise as possible. So specifically mentioned here 2 words that I can redefine again: Prabhava Prakashas and the Swayam Vilasa, or Prabhava Vilasas and the Swayam Vilasas. Prabhava Vilasa is that the chief quadruple expansions, and the Vaibhava Vilasas are the first expansion. Here the 4 Prabhava pastimes of the Lord residing eternally in Dwarka and Mathura. So the form from the original quadruple expansions, 24 forms are manifested. They differ according to the placement of the weapons in their hands. They are called Vaibhava Vilasas. So the chief quadruple forms are called Prabhava Vilasas, and then the 24 forms are manifested, which differ in all of the different weapons. They are called Vaibhava Vilasas. So these are some of the things that Srila Prabhupada is describing in this purport. If there's any questions or clarification, please feel free to comment. Anything? It's a little complicated, so I'm sorry. Anything? Nothing? You're probably the only one that can really say anything in this regard, so you want to say anything?
Hare Krishna. What was the result of that discussion that we were having? I didn't hear so much of the class.
Yeah, so the 16,100 wives, you can't become one of them. Because the gopis are, they've taken that position. It's a goddess of fortune, and so how can you take the position of a goddess of fortune? Seems that there's some description that, okay, is it only 16,100 queens? It seems to be some sort of description that there's more. With the gopis, it's described as 16,100 perform those vratas, but it's described here that there might have been more doing it also here. The present were specifics. The number of most fortunate gopis is 16,100. Although the word cha implies that there were actually more. So unless my understanding was that they could be serving under those 16,100 queens, or they could be more. So this is where, I don't know so much.
It seems like as far as the queens are concerned, that's the fixed amount. Because, we get the whole genealogy of Krishna.
Yeah.
Like that he had 10 sons with each queen, one daughter with 10 sons and one daughter with each queen. And we hear that that's the genealogy of Krishna's family. We don't hear, at least I haven't heard.
Yeah.
And it seems like the expansions of the gopis and all this too. So the Ashtasakis are the initial expansions of Srimati Radharani. And then each principal queen of Krishna is actually an expansion of those. We can see that, for example, Jambavati is Lalita, Jambavati Devi, and then Rukmini is actually Chandravali.
Oh.
Expansion of Chandravali. And Satyabhama is an expansion of Srimati Radharani.
Oh.
And that's why we see Srila Prabhupada also, right? We were just reading recently that in the pastime of Bhaumasura that Satyabhama is Krishna's favorite queen. Prabhupada said because she's an expansion of Radharani, and that's why and if you want to get more into it, there's like two wings: there's the left wing and the right wing.
Yeah.
So
Rukmini is on the left wing. On the right wing.
Yeah, she's on the right wing. And like their love is compared, so Radharani's love is compared to honey, and Rukmini's love is compared, I don't want to like get into it, it's compared to butter. So like, when Rukmini's whole group is like that of being, Chandravali's whole group is that of being like very, submissive to Krishna and not fighting with him and anything like that, But Radharani's group is that which, of course, we are coming in the line of that, is to like, to give Krishna a hard time, So like that's the whole thing. So all these other queens also, they, it's Radharani is the source of all of them, right? And she wants to increase Krishna's enjoyment in unlimited ways. So she expands the internal, the Hladini Shakti of Krishna. Krishna Purna Shakti, Radha Purna Shakti, Krishna Purna Shakti Man. So she's the fountainhead of all the Shaktis and everything like that. So she facilitates Krishna's enjoyment in every way, shape, and form, 100%, no doubt. But it seems like some of them, ultimately, although she is the source of all of them, there's like, in order to facilitate the different flavors, there's the expansions of her different expansions like that. For example, Rukmini is not directly an expansion of Radharani, she's an expansion of Chandravali, who's an expansion of Srimati Radharani. Yeah. So like, she facilitates their enjoyment like that, in different ways. She does it like that. And, and somehow or the other, I read like a commentary of Guru Maharaj on Chaitanya Charitamrita, and especially in regards to this. I don't know how, where, why, when, but, he's speaking about how even in order to enter Radharani's, grove, sometimes the Manjaris are guarding it, and they don't let Krishna enter, and Krishna bows down to the Manjaris, begging them to please let him enter. So like they pull that rasa out of Krishna like that, and Krishna enjoys that the most. And then like the other side is that, like, they're like, oh, of course, like, whatever you want, and no matter how much he tries to poke him, they don't react. We can see, like, Krishna teases Rukmini. Oh, anyway, it's not too late now. You can still go find a better husband than me. Who am I? So many people say. There's a whole thing. And then like she faints, Rukmini faints, and immediately Krishna manifests his 4 hands to hold her. And then Prabhupada helps us understand that's like their whole mood. It's like that mood of it's still full Madhurya Rasa and all that, but that I guess like what some people who are like highly floating, they say like a contamination of awe and reverence or something like that, But it's not there like that with Srimati Radharani and her group. So all these expansions, they expand further and further and further more in order to facilitate Krishna's. So there's like this Swayam Prakasha. So it could be like, for example, Satyabhama, it could be like that, like the Swayam Prakasha expansion of Srimati Radharani. And then and Rukmini is like a Swayam Prakasha expansion of Chandravali. It makes more sense if we logically analyze it like that. Jambavati is Lalita Devi. She's the person who Krishna first marries. Yeah. Why? Because she's older than Radharani. Lalita Devi is older than Srimati Radharani by a few days. So so there's so much. He marries Rukmini first, of course. He marries Rukmini first, but then like this, there's so many details.
Yeah. So then from the 8 principal, I'm guessing then the 8 principal queens of Dwarka, all of these other expansions are there also.
Yeah, their expansions must. In order to facilitate that particular flavor, it must be there like that. Otherwise, like Radharani has a particular flavor that she offers to Krishna. Of course, she's a fountainhead of all of them, but like she offers a particular thing to Krishna like that. So and then from her, Chandravali has there's a whole other branch like this, so that's why.
It must be the same because within Vrindavan you've got the 8 principle and expansion of them.
Yeah, and then they may have their own.
In
That's
Dwarka,
why
it's the same.
if you see, there's a painting in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. I really like this painting. We're going to be getting a big one actually here, where Krishna and Radharani are sitting in the middle, and there's like, I think like the 16 other gopis or something like this, and they're holding a fan. So that's like the whole left and right side,
Okay, yeah.
So that's the whole expansion, and how all of this plays into account. But Krishna Sri Bhagavan Swayam is in Vraja with Radharani.
Yeah.
That's 100%. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is a vision of Radharani who beholds Krishna. So that's a line. And Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Rupa Manjari is the topmost servitor of the topmost servitor of Srimati Radharani. He's Rupa Goswami is servant Sarup Damodar, who's Alita. Who's Alita, and then, and her servant her servant is Rupa Manjari, and that's the line that we follow strictly. But when we get more into these details, we understand more like that. And Krishna also expands himself simultaneously according to that flavor of worship that they want to provide for him.
It's mentioned later that because Srimati Radharani, Krishna is the enchanter of Cupid, but she enchants Cupid himself. So when Srimati Radharani, there's expansion that he tries to facilitate so that he can satisfy her.
That's why she's called Madan Mohan Mohini. That's she's anyway. That like that verse that you read. She's supreme.
Yeah.
She's supreme. Like she completely controls Krishna. Being who she attracts the all attractiveness of Krishna. Prabhupada is quoting that verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That must be from like 20 or 25 descriptions of the Lord's pastime.
It's really beautiful verses here. The string of verses that come.
That's the real. That's the crux of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy.
The transcendental goodness, Srimati Radharani, is the direct counter.
I think it's transcendental goddess.
Goddess.
Okay, thank God. Because I'm thinking this.
I was like, goodness, how does that make sense? Transcendental goddess, Srimati Radharani, is the direct counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna. She is the central figure of all the goddess of fortune. She possesses all the attractiveness to attract the all-attractive personality of Godhead. She is primeval internal potency of the Lord.
Yeah, because even when Krishna is in Dwarka in Rukmini, in the whole night he's saying Radha, Radha. The whole night Krishna is saying that. Yeah. And Rukmini is like, what is he? What am I not doing for him?
What is he crying, right?
He's crying in his
Guru
sleep.
Maharaj says that in that one lecture, right? In his sleep, he's crying that he's in Vrindavan.
Yeah, and then I'm wondering what are we not giving him here? What are we not? I mean, you just can't give what Radharani gives. Like, it's just that level of pleasure. Like, and I was just reading just now, that I just made a note of it day before yesterday or something, that Srimati Radharani, she's the gatekeeper of Krishna's pleasure. She's like, she holds Krishna's pleasure. She's the one who's in charge of it. So it's up to her to dispense it or not, and how to dispense it, when to dispense it. They're very, very expert. And if you read the commentary of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur on 537 of Brahma Samhita, the Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita. So in that, he says that the ingredients of rasa are the 64 arts, which are described. So Srimati Radharani is, anyway, I don't want to get like super esoteric or anything, but Krishna learns how to dance from Srimati Radharani. So that's like her supreme position. And all the other expansions, they, according to the flavor, she separates herself. Nice. And anyway, this is
the Sanskrit that comes in this is really nice. This verse, this especially Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mayi Sarva Kanti Samohini Para.
Paradevata, she's like the topmost, and she's like Samohini Para. She's the enchantress of the enchanter. And it's inconceivable. That's why Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Devotion, that bhakti is more transcendently more powerful than Bhagavan, because Bhagavan is completely controlled by bhakti. So and she's who she is.
So this is one thing that I kind of caught me off guard here. So this Vaibhava Vilasas, which are the it's mentioned here that the four Prabhava pastimes, pastime form of the Lord Krishna reside eternally in Dwarka and Mathura. So does that mean all the expansions of Krishna are particularly those four Prabhavas, which are the Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha?
So it's again, I need to look more into this. I don't know how I happen to know more about this side of, I mean, Srimad Radharani's side and all this. It's like more clear in my mind. Good influence, bad influence,
we know why,
whatever it may be.
We know why.
Actually, I was never in that bhav, like, with back then. But, it's, it seems to me that, Krishna and Balaram, they're always there, right? And then then there's Pradyumna and Aniruddha also in Dwarka. So it seems to me, I don't know, I need to do more research in this. But that could be
Vasudev, Sankarshan.
Yeah, so
Sankarshan
Krishna's Vasudeva,
Sankarshan
Balaram is Sankarshan, and Pradyumna and Aniruddha also.
So all these 16,108 are expansions of Vasudev, Sankarshan,
Yes,
Pradyumna, and Aniruddha.
somehow or the other, like, Krishna is expanding himself. And, in today's purport, I want to see.
That's what I thought, but then I was like, hang on a second.
Yeah, it seems like it. Prabhupada said that he expands himself and comes back again or something like this, right? Let's see. It's 336, right?
338.
8, okay.
Expands himself.
So,
no, so so it's Swayam Prakashas, and then again into
yeah, there you go.
Prabhava.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So by his internal potency, the Lord can expand himself into various personalities of Swayam Prakasha, and again into Prabhava. What is this?
Okay.
Prabhava, and it says Prabhava.
Oh,
here.
okay. So Lord Balaram is Swayam Prakasha.
Yeah. So first, he expands himself into various personalities of Swayam Prakasha, and again into Prabhava and Vaibhava.
So that's the quadruple form. That's
Yeah.
the quadruple. So then we got Vasudev, Sankarshan. Okay, yeah.
All of them are so because it doesn't make sense otherwise. So what, Krishna expanded himself as like a four-armed person for these gopis or something? For the princesses, no. It's the same Krishna.
Yeah.
And he expands himself. And in order to facilitate their particular mode of worship, which is, of course, is infinitely superlative, but even more, the supreme worshipper was Sammohini Paradevata, as Srimati Radharani. So in order to facilitate their particular mode of worship, the Prabhava and Vilasa expansions come about. When I read that, that's what I understood.
Prabhava and Vaibhava.
So,
Vaibhava.
yeah, Prabhava and Vaibhava, sorry. Yeah. Prabhava and Vaibhava expansions, they come about. So Krishna himself is there, but then in order to add that flavor in order for their worship, which is although supremely high, not as supremely high as Srimati Radharani or anything like that. Krishna gives...
It's a two-handed form.
The two-handed form. Yeah. I mean, because we don't hear of Krishna having four-handed form in Dwarka, with the exception of like one time or two times, we can see maybe in a war or something like that, But he usually doesn't have it like that.
So Vasudev Krishna is but it's Vasudev Krishna.
Vasudeva Krishna. Yeah, Vasudeva Krishna, and and there's different times where he's completely manifested and not manifested also. For example, this happens way before this pastime of killing Bhaumasura. Does it happen before fighting with Jarasandha or after fighting with Jarasandha?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Anyone know? Okay, when does Krishna fight with Jarasandha? Okay. Anyway, so the entrance of Krishna's Vasudeva feature fully comes about when the Shanga bow appears. Mm-hmm. When the weapons appear, the Shanga, Kaumudaki, all of them, they appear.
But it seems he's not afraid to manifest his four-handed form, because you're saying like Rukmini when she fainted.
Yeah, but that's way later. Way later. So like it's as time goes on, like the opulence or the Aishwarya increases, Krishna manifests it more and more like that.
Because he's becoming he's the king of Dwarka.
Yeah, he's the king of Dwarka, and because initially he's not the king of Mathura. Ugrasena is the king of Mathura. So like that rasa, like it's just like, of course, this example is given, in. Anyway, this probably may not be the best one, but we can see that as Krishna moves further and further away from Vrindavan, more and more opulence is manifesting, and there should be some significance. Maybe we could do some research into that. When all this happened, Krishna was with Satyabhama. He was with Satyabhama she's like the direct of Srimati Radharani, and so he was having like that full flavor with her, and then he.
So we got then you've got the Swayam Prakashas, which is from Vrindavan to Dwarka.
Yeah, Mathura Dwarka. Yeah.
Mathura Dwarka, and then from those Swayam Prakashas comes the Vaibhava and the Prabhavas.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Swayam Prakashas, they're just slightly different in their emotions. Is that right?
Yeah, basically slightly different in the way that they allow the
worshipper
to worship them.
Bodily color, yeah.
There's so many different shades of a particular color. We can't really even count them. Not every sapphire is the same.
Yeah.
It's really not. And Krishna's color is sapphire, but what sapphire exactly? It's not the same. And sometimes when you put the sapphire in the sun, it looks different. So like that, we see and we understand like that. And some, maybe like slightly some features may be particular, but it's full of variety, Krishna.
Yeah, there's a lot in here.
Yeah. This actually, it can be expanded on a whole other thing.
I don't know much about these things at all, but it's nice. Okay, so does people understand any of that? No, you don't. Anybody understand? Did you get anything? Okay, all right. So, anyways, the basic thing was that there's a direct expansion of Srimati Radharani into Dwarka, who's Satyabhama, and then on the right wing is Chandravali, who is generally the little more competitor, and from her, direct expansion is Rukmini. And then you've got all of these, but these are generally the two sides that are there, the Radharani's side and Chandravali's side. So there's direct expansions of her, and then from those, there's more expansions of that mood and emotion according to. It's a lot. Yeah, no, it's like I was struggling to get my head around that too. Actually, I was like trying to figure because I only had like half an hour to try to like understand this, and I was like, oh my God. But that clears it up a lot. Thank you for that discussion. This is really ecstatic, especially when I started to look into the Chaitanya Charitamrita and found, oh wow, it's like this whole realm of expansion of the goddess of fortune, and it's like, wow, this is really ecstatic. But to understand it, it's a little hard because it requires a lot of reading from the Bhagavatam. But then just like this, Rasa Vichar, yeah, that is there. But it's nice. It's ecstatic that how Krishna expands himself into different. In order to facilitate Srimati Radharani's pleasure.
He's willing, he
do it.
Any way to facilitate any devotees, any devotee's mode of worship. However, it could Narasimha, whatever Krishna is willing to do.
So is that one thing? Anyways, this is a little. We'll get one more minute. So the devotee's mode of worship is another. Can you say that it's like another? It's taking shelter of Radharani, so it's a particular emotion and expression where we're taking inspiration from that and applying that, right?
So it's a simple thing. So Anaya Radhito Nunam, right? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, Radhita Anaya iti Radha. Basically, Radhita comes from, basically Aradhita comes from, so the mode of worship is basically Srimati Radharani, right? So basically, in order for a person to be a pure devotee, they need to have something known as seva vritti, which basically means a service attitude. And depending on how pure the service attitude is, you free yourself from material desires and material contaminations. So that seva vritti, it can be manifested in so many forms. Basically, it boils down to however Krishna wants to enjoy, Radharani is there to let him enjoy in that particular way. And if he wants to enjoy as Narasimha, and then she comes as Lakshmi, and they can be Lakshmi and Narasimha together. And then all her expansions also come like that. If Krishna wants to enjoy as Rama, then Radharani comes as Sita Devi. If Krishna wants to enjoy as Vamana, she comes as Kirti. So like this. So however Krishna wants to enjoy, he can't enjoy without her.
Yeah.
He can't enjoy without her. So however far he wants to go into opulence, Radharani goes that far into opulence. And however much, but the ultimate thing is Vrindavan. That's where he can enjoy on topmost level, forgetting all this stuff. So she facilitates everything. She facilitates everything, however he wants to enjoy. Same with Lord Balaram, he also facilitates everything. Even Madhurya Rasa, Balaram, like he has a Ananga Manjari is basically, Balaram's way of serving Krishna in the Madhurya Rasa. So this, the servants of the Supreme Lord, they're willing to go as far as the Lord wants to go. You want to be served like this? Fantastic. We'll serve you exactly like this, however you want. If you want to, and whichever rasa that you want to go in. So ultimately, all service comes from Srimati Radharani because she has the best service attitude. That's why Guru Maharaj was saying in this lecture, the most important statement in all of Srila Prabhupada's books is the advancement of a practitioner depends upon the attitude of the follower. So seva vritti, that's the most important thing. So that's what everything depends on, actually. So however Krishna wants to enjoy, she's there to serve him. And then her servants are there to serve him also.
There's
so
also
like that.
Principal expansion of the cowherd boys.
Huh?
Is there expansions of the cowherd boys also? Or is that not particularly described? Like,
So
like Subal
so Subal, Sridham, Sudam, and I'm forgetting. There's four principal ones.
which are described.
So
as
each of them are like one of them is an
category called?
expansion of Krishna's mind. The other is an expansion of Krishna's. Like there's all these cowherd boys are expansions of Krishna's different. What I don't want to get too much into the details of all that, but they're always there. So some way, shape, or form, they must be expanding themselves to serve the Lord because no one else can serve Krishna like them. Like it's not like what? Okay, I'm going to replace you with this guy for this. No, it doesn't happen like that. And they're always there to serve the Lord in some way, shape, or form.
Even if a jiva attains that position, that's it. That's that particular position. Like even a jiva, until let's say we're speaking about more the eternal positions. But then even if a jiva attains a particular position, that's it. It's like that position.
Yeah, you see that and it also depends upon the capacity of the living entity. Some of the living entities are made of Chit Shakti. The expansions of Srimati, they're completely Hladini Shakti. Whereas we are Tatashta Shakti.
Yeah.
So, we have our own limitations as to how much we could do. But if the Lord desires, He can make it happen. For example, when He went to meet Bahulashva and Shrutadev, you remember this in the Christian book? When He goes to meet Bahulashva and Shrutadev. So, Bahulashva is a Brahmana and Shrutadev is a king. Right? So, he had only so much time and he wanted to go meet both of them because both of them are his pure devotees. So, he goes along with Vyasa, Shukadeva, and all these couple of other devotees, and he just like, one party goes to meet Shrutadev and the other party goes to meet Bahulashva, and Vyasadeva is over there and he's with Shrutadev also, and Shukadeva Goswami is with Shrutadev and Bahulashva also. So all of them are there in both places, and it's not like they're like, if one is eating in another place, the other expansion just starts doing that. No, they have like their own separate things. And you can also see Krishna is getting married to 16,108 wives at the same time. That means that it's not like it's only Krishna. Vasudeva and Devaki also have to be there. They're the parents, right? All his relatives also have to be there. So Krishna empowers his living entities to expand themselves like that. It's actually inconceivable that however Krishna wants to enjoy, and if he thinks, okay, you know what, this guy is helping with my enjoyment, he will facilitate whatever is needed. However you want to serve him, Krishna will facilitate it. That's why your Ishtadevata will never abandon you. If you develop a certain attachment, he'll never abandon you. Somehow or the other, he'll figure it out. That's Santa, we're seeing. Supreme Lord exists for the sake of his devotees. So this is, so much can be spoken more and more about this, but we understand like that.
Anything else? Any questions? Prabhuji.
One point also. I think it's also from that lecture when Guru Maharaj gave about Gadadhar Pandit. He told us Gadadhar Pandit that usually we recognize him like Srimati Radharani, and but actually Gadadhar Pandit is a Rukmini. You can see, because he's from his childhood, he's very submissively served to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and like that you can see the mood of Rukmini Devi. But at the same moment is Srimati Radharani. You can see even then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went from Jagannath Puri, I guess, to Vrindavan or something like this, and Gadadhar Pandit following him And when he followed him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told, you should stay, do some worship because I gave you these deities, and one another people, another brahmanas can think about you, you take these deities, you're not serving properly, and now you want to follow me. And Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu, what does it mean? No, if you another people can think about me whatever they want, what is the use of this? I want to be with you somehow or the other. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tried to stop him, and then you have this also famous picture on the bank of river, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu staying in a boat, and this is Gadadhar Pandit was completely frustrated, and he's fainted, like falling on the ground, like without conscious, without any feeling, like tree, like boof, like this, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told you should stay here. You cannot go with me. You can see, in one sense, it's completely Rukmini because submissively, but another is like Radharani. I don't know what the people can think about me, because what is it matter of this? If I cannot go with you, what is the use of this? Even these deities and everything, this prestige, everything. What is the use? It's also one point. It is Radharani and Rukmini simultaneously. You can see.
You can understand the position of Rupa Goswami then, huh?
Prabhu, it's inconceivable. Yeah. Our line, our acharyas, Ihara Paramahamsa, Gaurangera Nijabhamsa, they're pulling us up to something which we cannot conceive of. And that's why we can also see that when Gadadhar Pandit's appearance, it's a new moon. Why? Because Krishna steals all the light and everything from the moon, and that when he appears as Gaura Purnima, and Gadadhar Pandit appears on a day that's new moon, because he's taken all that stuff of Srimati Radharani, and then that's Rukmini. So she's simultaneously both. Yeah, that's like amazing.
You can understand Rupa Goswami's position because to explain all that, Rasa Acharya. He has to understand all those pastimes, to understand. Only who's it? Sarup Damodar. And he didn't explain it.
Only somehow Lord Chaitanya knew about that verse. Rupa Goswami knew about that verse.
Yeah.
And then Lord Chaitanya, when he sees that Rupa Goswami had that verse, and he came back from bathing, he offered his obeisance and got up, and Lord Chaitanya slapped him and put him on his lap and told him, how do you know all this? How do you know all this? And then and then Prabhupada writes, and then the explanation goes on that somehow he understood the heart of his master. He understood the heart of his master. And then Srila Prabhupada writes, we also wrote a poem glorifying Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he said, how could we have understood the heart of Srila Prabhupada? Prabhupada writes that in the Prabhupada. I was just reading it. So it's, I'm telling you, we really got it made. I don't.
There's a lot.
Where is Navani Hore? Spiritual pride. We really got it made. This line is,
people it's like when there's anyways, this is the point. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hrit rasayana kathaha. So that when there's proper discussions of the pastimes of the Lord, there's great pleasure to the heart, and one derives one gets deep attraction to the Lord. And a lot of people say, well, by reading Prabhupada's books, you can't develop that.
That's so bogus.
But there's so many things. People say, oh, Prabhupada just talks about you're not the body. And he just quotes this Bhagavad Gita, pretty much every single purport of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita is Bhagavad Gita quote, this, but then you actually analyze it properly with a purified mind and heart, and there's just unlimited amount of things within Srila Prabhupada's books. And those who are avajananti ma mudha, they cannot see. They see that even so-called tilak and necklace and all of these things, but you criticize Prabhupada's books for being basic. And it's there's this unlimited amounts that you can just go into. And the more you read the Bhagavatam, it's every time, it's just wow, this is I've done, there's an unlimited enough to just take in, and it's sometimes overwhelming. But if one can start to develop a proper mood and actually saying, how can we understand the heart? But that's revealed by the Lord that He's pleased with the Rupa Goswami, pleased with Srila Prabhupada. His own spiritual master is pleased with him. Therefore, he enters into that heart and gives that knowledge as we chant every day. The spiritual master gives that knowledge. So it's Krishna consciousness, we can't understand with our own mind. You can't. You require the mercy of the spiritual master for those words of the spiritual master to enter the heart and make an impact. And then from that, like the bhakti lata, it starts to like grow nicely. And then we can understand all of these things and realize, oh, everything is right here in this, Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada said, and nectar of devotion. You don't need anything else.
What are you talking? What all stuff Prabhupada writes in there,
I read the first time, everything's just kind of weird over my head.
Like, am I really? Even teachings of Lord Chaitanya is so esoteric. Have you read that book? Have you read that book? I can't believe it. Like, we're disputing this. This is what we're disputing. Nectar of devotion. I mean, I can't. What the heck is that?
When you first time you read it, you're just like, okay, I don't really understand anything. But then, like, after you read, like, Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then you have, you hear so many lectures, then you can start to relish it more.
And more than anything, when you engage in service,
that's
the most. That's how everything is. Seva vritti. That's the most important thing. When you have a good service attitude, then like you can just stay. I mean, I remember when I first somehow came into the association, I somehow got a hold of the Brahma Samhita, and I was reading it. Like I couldn't understand anything, But then after disputing books for some time, then like something at least entered, So it's like seva vritti. That we need to perform service in order to gain adhikar into it. That's a very important thing.
Okay, all right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.